the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
One morning, the police officers received a telephone call that there was a man in a cantina who was drunk and he was shooting his gun off early in the morning. The officers walked from one end of town to the other end of town, where they came to the cantina and arrested the man. And up in the hills were family members and friends of the man who was arrested. They came down with AK-47s and other guns and chased the police through town. They were not only shot and murdered, but then they were shot to be unrecognizable after they were dead. A few days later, the colonel called me into his office. We had a program called Creating a Culture of Peace, and he wanted us to go do that. I was sitting there looking at him and I said, "Are you crazy? Are you telling me that I have to go minister to the same people who murdered my friends?" And I went home and I prayed, and the Lord told me to go. This is where faith comes in. The Lord told me to take off my vest and to hand my gun over to the head officer, and told me that instead of driving through town to the school, that we would walk. The Lord's telling me, how can you come and present a culture of peace when you're wearing a gun and a vest? And so, as ambassadors for Christ, me and my son and my nephew stepped out into the village, onto the street, and walked through town without vests, without guns, with the police behind us, from one end of town to the other end of town, to show the people that we were ambassadors for Christ, that we were ambassadors for peace. I was terrified in my flesh, but I was doing it because I was trusting my Father, because He knows better.